Hey everybody, welcome to episode 33 Between the Lanes. I'm Ralph.
And I'm Ron.
As usual, we'll get started off with our past week's race results.
Yes, we will here in a second. There we go. So, the winning report, and we're going to start off this weekend at the SCRA race in Buena Park, California. And actually had two races last weekend. They had their normal Saturday SCRA show, and then on Sunday was their outlaw race where they ran the ProSod FK motors on Sunday. So on Saturday, I guess they started the F1 race or whatever, and they had a computer snafu, and I think they ended that race after 5 heats because they just lost the race and they'd have to restart. So there was kind of an F1 race, but then there was really no official finish. But in Can-Am, Sam Rackham was your winner with Dale Yamashita second and Ricklin third. And on Sunday's outlaw race, Sam Rackham won again with Jim Lang second and Craig Correa third. And then there was the Triangle Slot Racers Association race, which was at American Adrenaline Speedway down in Randleman, North Carolina. In GTP, Bobby Beachman won with Carl Legaspi second and Guy Spalding third. And in LMP, Bobby B won again with Carl second and Guy third again. And then NASCAR, Guy Spalding won with Bobby second and Carl third. The New England Retro Racing Association raced at Rapid Raceway in Plainfield, Connecticut. And in the F1 class, Vinny Cafazzo was your winner, and he's also the NERR F1 champion for the series or season. Jordan Temple was second, and Colin Martin was third. So that was kind of a younger, I don't want to call them all kids, but you know what I'm saying. That was a young sweep of the F1 class. And in stock car, Keith Libby, who's been on quite a roll lately up that way, was the winner of stock car with Vinny second, and Ed Burgess was third. The American Womp Racing Association was at Thunder Road in Saluda, Virginia. And in the stock car class, it was Bobby Prout, your winner, with Tom Campbell second, and Jeff Crabtree was third. Sportsman Josh Henderson was your winner with Bobby Prout second, and Frank Goff the third in third. And Legends, Josh pulled it off again with Tom Campbell in second and Bobby Prout third. There was also an AWRA race out in California, but I have yet to see any race results on that one, so we can't report on that. At Mid-America Raceway in Naperville, Illinois, they had the Border Wars drag race. And in the bracket, they had kind of like two groups of brackets or two bracket races, but this was a photo from the first bracket race, and Tom Lester was the winner. Aaron Bryan was runner-up with Bryant and Danny, the semi winners. In bracket 2, Tom Lester was the winner, and Larry Spears was runner-up. And in the VX Funny Car, Danny Jones was your winner, and Old Lumpy Palonis was the runner-up. The Ohio Challenge Cup Series, they went to the track there in Washington, Pennsylvania. It's kind of set up as a club track, but it's the old UK Black that they've had a couple of USRA Nats on in the past. And anyway, so in GT1B, Jim Harder was your winner. Ron Culp was second. Bud Denning was third. GT1A, Eric Shirey was the winner with Greg Mayer second and Justin Porter in third. Group 10, Greg Mayer was the winner. Ron Culp was second. Jim Harder third. And in GTP, Greg was your winner again with Justin Porter second and Eric Shirey in third. The Mid-American Hard Body Slot Car Series was at Naperville also on Saturday. Hobby Stock was on the oval track, and Rick Verlinsky was your winner. Fred Fowler second, Kevin Owens third. Super Stock was on the LTD. Brian Meharry was the winner. J.P. Milcherska second. Rick Stagen third. And Pony Stock was on what they now call the Millennium Track, which was the Israel Worlds Track. Brian again was the winner. Rick Stagen second. J.P. third. There was also a Formula 2000 wing car race there, but I have nothing on that either as far as classes and results. The Buckeye Retro Series was at Downriver in Lincoln Park, Michigan, and I was there. And they recently got the old skid mark skirting King track, and this was probably the third race on the track because they'd raced the previous 2 weeks because their normal race night's Wednesday night. But so anyway, we were there for this race, and in Retro Angle Winder, I was the winner. Richard T. was second. Bob Foster was third. In Can-Am, I won again with Frank Ulrich second, Jeremy third, and then F1. I got lucky again. Dodged a bullet there. I can tell you about that in a minute. Lonnie Batts was second. Richard T. third. And then we had some Paco's awards, and Lonnie was the winner in F1. Bob Foster, Retro Angle Winder, and Jeremy in the Can-Am class. So that's our winner chicken dinner report for the week.
So how was the track?
On the track, okay, like
in Downriver.
I only raced on. It was I think a year ago, last February, we went up to Skid Marks for a retro race that Richard T put together.
Right.
It was the first time I'd ever raced on the track, and the track was good. I mean, like I always say, Gary Girding hasn't built two identical King tracks yet, so they're all a little different. You know what I mean? Like, Dead Man's a little different on this track compared to that track or the Finger or whatever. So, I don't know. For some reason, when it was at Skid Marks, it was different. I felt it was different for me. And then they've moved it now, and they basically like raised a bunch of the turns. Because when I first walked in, I looked at the track and I'm thinking, I don't remember the top turn like being that raised up and kind of banked. And
do you think it's better how it is now, or better how it was at Skid Marks?
I can't say that because the track raced really good, but I can't say it's better or worse. Because I've only raced on it one time. So
the only thing I heard about was there was a couple, maybe like a launch spot or two. Well,
we had problems coming out of the bank on red lane and white lane with the F1 cars. All the other cars were fine. But the cars wanted to wiggle real bad and or maybe launch. So they got a little bit of tweaking and dialing in yet in that section of the track, especially for the F1 cars. And then when we raced at Skid Marks, when I raced on the track at Skid Marks, the F1s wanted to wiggle a little bit coming out of the bank on red, but not as bad as it was this weekend. So,
like, how fast were your Can-Am? Like, how fast did you go in Can-Am?
Frank TQ'd at like 393.2.
Okay, so 3.9s.
And I went 393.8. Now, when we raced at Skid Marks, the track was ran like on 14 or 14.2. And at Downriver, they're running it on 13.5 or whatever. They got the Bulldog power supply, so it's plugs in or plugs out. So it's on the low power setting.
Right.
Which I think is 13.5 or 13.8, somewhere in there. But
okay.
So they're running on less voltage now than when we did at Skid Marks. But the second race at Skid Marks that I didn't go to, and they had lowered the power for that a year ago. So Richard T could tell you more about which track, or if track was better in one location or the other one. But
right, yeah.
They were going to clean the track and stuff on Thursday before we got there, but they didn't do that. So the track was really kind of rubbered up, and people made comments about, look at the track all rubbered up, but the track was really good. It raced really, really good. So, like in Can-Am, I led the first couple heats, and I kind of ate it on red. My car just kind of kicked out in the middle of the donut, and I came off twice, and then I thought I could punch the top turn, and I came off trying to do that. But me and Frank and Jeremy, we had a pretty good battle in Can-Am the whole distance. I mean, we were really no more than 2 or 3 laps apart, and it just kind of came down to who stayed on best towards the end that won the race. And I can only remember coming off in the race like 4 times.
Right. So tell us about the big bullet you dodged in the F1 race.
So on F1, let's see, I started on orange and Jeremy started on blue, and we pretty much ran the whole first heat nose to tail. I mean, I led and he was right there, and I didn't know if he was laying back, and I asked him, I said, are you okay? And we went by. He goes, no, I'm fine. So I think he was probably just a little bit faster, but he just couldn't get to me, and I was ready to let him go, but he wasn't right there for me to let him go. So I just kept going, and I thought, well, if he says, hey, let me go, I'm gonna let him go, no problem. So we finished the heat. He goes to purple, and I go up to white, and I mean, you had to go slow coming out of the bank on red and white. So I knew I was gonna go down. So I think after I ran red, I was 1 or 2 laps behind Jeremy, because Jeremy had run purple and black, and he was coming up the track, and I was going down the track. And, it was one of those, I'm probably going to, I felt I was going to probably get him because, his fate was going to be the same as mine when I was up there, as far as,
right.
Having to go slower and stuff. And, I got to a point where I kind of had him. I knew, okay, if I get a lap back this heat and I get a lap back next heat, it's going to be really, really close. One of us is going to win, but I don't know which ones. I don't know who's going to be ahead. So, and we were kind of joking about it. So, I guess we started the 7th heat, and he was still leading. And for some reason, his gear went out of his car. So, I don't know what happened there. He said it kind of felt a little funky before the start of the race or something. But,
yeah.
I mean, when he was running really super good. So, he definitely had me on the ropes. And so I kind of dodged that bullet there. So
hopefully you get the track smoothed out and sorted out.
Yeah, I mean, the track is really in pretty good shape. I mean, they just for F1 cars, they need to work on coming out of the bank. So,
Right.
But we have that problem with some of the other Gurney Kings we run at. So, I mean, I've been on brand new King tracks and have launched coming out of the bank on Red Lane on Gurney King tracks for some reason.
Right.
So, the tracks, they're really not banked. They're kind of elevated. And, I mean, I think if they glue them, they spray glue the bank a little bit on the exit, I don't think it's such a problem. But, oh, well. So,
Sunday.
There's my man. He's got it. So this weekend it's Easter, of course. So there's not a lot of races, but the JPM series is hard body series is up at South Bend. You got the Gator Retro Racing down in Florida, Retro East, AWRA, and there's a TSRA, Texas Slot Racers Association wing car race this weekend, which is at PA Watson's track, which this is the last race at the mall as PA is moving here in the next few weeks, from what I read. So his current King track and the hill climb are for sale, and he's trying to purchase the G16 Girding King track that was at Dallas Slot Cars, which was bought by Bill Frost, which Bill Frost has decided to sell. So we'll see what happens down there in the next month or so. And then next weekend, April 7th, you got ORS, NorCal, Penn, Jersey, and Great Lakes are series races coming up the following weekend. So,
okay.
That's what I know as far as
and that's all, folks.
Races and racing.
So you mentioned at the Bueno Park race they got like 5 heats in and how to stop, right? So in real racing, that they a lot of places they say, all right, you race to halfway, and once you get to halfway, it's an official race if something happens or rains, right?
Right.
So, I mean, should we have something like that in slot cars? Because it seems like computer problems are just so frequent.
Well,
So it's
okay.
like, I mean, should you have a rule that says, hey, if we complete 4 heats, if anything happens in the 5th heat or after, the race is done?
I guess a series or
You know,
raceway, or I mean, they could do that if they wanted to.
the only problem I guess that I would see with that is if you combine A and the B.
Well, yeah, if you go over all lap
You know.
totals, that's a problem. But
Right.
Blaine apart because they move up, you know.
Right.
6 or 7 guys make the A main, and 1 or 2 guys from the B main move up.
Yeah, it seems like every time it happens, everyone's like, "Oh God, what do we do now? What are we gonna do?" You know,
well,
like nobody knows what's gonna happen, or you know what I mean?
right. And see, we had the same issue at Downriver where they started the first Can-Am, the C main, and somehow when they programmed the computer, because they didn't use Lapmaster, they use a different system there. Somehow it got switched from European rotation to a standard rotation.
Yeah.
So they ran the first heat, and then everybody's like, they look up to, and they're like,
everybody went to the wrong lane. Yeah.
So it's like, what do we do? And I said, no, everybody just change your cars where you're at on the track. Pit your car and put it right back down. And we took a photo of the screen and wrote the laps down that they'd run. And we restarted the race with a seven heat race. So at the end, we had to add it on paper. But we have to do everything there on paper because they don't have a printer. So
right.
So it's kind of weird because you're racing and you don't know, you might know how many laps you had the first heat and you can add them up in your head and you know how many total laps you got, but you don't know what the other guys have. So you're kind of racing in the dark sometimes when that situation happens.
Right.
So and we had the same problem in the F1 races when cars would maybe launch or go sideways so much that they didn't count their lap coming down out of the bank. We were adding them on paper and then adding them up at the end of the race. But like the whole race in F1, like Jeremy knew that I had missed 2 laps. So if it showed I was 4 laps behind him, I was only 2 because I had 2 laps coming. And I don't know if that program, you can actually add laps as the race is going on or not, but we didn't do it that way.
So if you combine.
But we combine, so you can't really
combine A and the B, and the power goes out, and you lose the computer and the results in halfway through the 7th heat, right?
Right.
So you have to start over, right?
If you lose all your data, yeah.
But is it fair to give those guys like 5 minutes of track time and say, okay, you can go put fresh braid on, or you can put new tires on and retech your car?
Right.
I mean, is that fair? I would say there's got to be some sort of.
I think it depends on what side of the fence you're on if it's fair. And I mean, obviously, if you ran 7.5 heats, the power went out and you lost all your data, you'd have to restart the race. But then the cars would have to be, like you said, you'd have to change the tires because it wouldn't be fair. If you're going overall lap totals for combined mains, you could one main run on really small tires, after 7 heats or smaller tires. So yeah, I mean, yeah, it's that's like I always prefer it when we go to a race if the raceway prints out heat by heat results. That way, if you do have an issue or
you can just go back where you left off.
If your power flickers for some reason and you lose everything, you can. Okay, we ran 6 heats, and we're going to run the final 2 heats and then add them up.
Right.
That corrects the problem. But if you're not printing everything off or keeping track of it, you got to restart the race. And then it's that other thing too. Like, let's say you and I are in a race, and the 3rd heat, I have to go fix my car under green. Maybe say that I got to change my crown gear, spur gear, and I lose multiple laps because of that. And we run to the 5th heat, and we lose everything. Got to restart. Well, is that fair to you or everybody else that got ahead of me because of my problem?
Well, there's always going to be somebody that feels like this is not fair, that is not fair. I feel like it's probably best if we had some kind of like universal agreement. And that way, at least at least ahead of time, everybody knows what's going to happen if something happens.
Right. Well, I think the reason we don't have a universal thing is just because it doesn't happen often enough to where it's a problem. You know what I mean? Like, because I was actually sitting here yesterday thinking, sometime, okay, so when you started racing, has it always been European lane rotation, or did you ever do American lane rotation?
I mean, I've raced with American lane rotation, but I mean, European was like pretty much standard when I was ever since I've been racing.
And I've always said for years we need to have a retro race and run the American lane rotation. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just as the retro thing, and so I'm saying I was trying to remember how it worked. Like if you start on red, you go to white, you go to green, and then if you were like start on black, then you go to red.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, well, in that system, we used to run. You'd run like gutter lanes, basically 4 heats in a row, and then you'd run the good lanes. If you started on purple, you ran purple, black, red, and white. So you kind of ran the gutters,
right?
Heats, and then you ran the good lanes the last 4 heats,
right?
So I was trying to remember how that started, but it was kind of like, well, where's black go? Oh, black goes up to red. It was. I mean, I can't tell you how
it follows on through.
Yeah, and I remember when they first introduced European rotation and the resistance by some groups and organizations to go to that. Mm-hmm. It really turned out to be I won't say revolutionary, but it was.
What's weird about the American rotation is, we're used to whoever's to our left or right, standing next to us at the panel. We're used to them being to the left and right of us on the track.
Right.
But it's not like that with American. Right. The guy next to you could be like 7 lanes down.
Right.
You know what I mean? So.
Right. So yeah. I mean, back to the whole lap counting thing. I mean, and I've been at some races where we did lose the computer or whatever, but they were able to go in and extract that and figure it out that way too. But anyway. So, yeah. And then when we were talking about that, that reminded me of something else I should have made a note, and I can't. I wanted to go back to that, but.
Oh, you'll remember it.
Getting old.
You remember it like 30 seconds after the show's over.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I remember what it was.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I don't know. That just popped in my head from the race results,
Right. So then, we had a good day at Downriver. We had a good turnout and everything, and a lot of locals, and
right.
So yeah, it worked out good, and the track is good. So I think when they have the Flexi-Palooza race there, the track will be really good for that.
Okay. Has anybody signed up for that race yet?
I don't think they're registered. I think
is it not open yet?
Yeah, it opens I think April 12th or something like that. But there seems to be a lot of interest, and
okay.
I ran a couple of cars up there after the races were over, and I mean the track was great for those cars. So there won't be any problems with red or white.
Right.
And I expect the track to be really rubbered up just because of the number of people and all the laps they'll run in practice.
You think they'll get the 64 entries that they're looking for?
Too early to tell. I mean, I think the numbers are going to be up there, 30s or 40s maybe, but
yeah.
Beyond that, I really, it's too early to tell.
Okay.
So, I mean, there's some guys I've never even heard of that are going, and then, there's a couple of guys that are wing car racers that are like, yeah, we're in. So,
okay, cool.
It'll be fun, I'm sure.
Right.
So, we'll see.
All right. Well, what else we got here this week?
Well, okay, that's why I wanted to go back. Now I remember it because, and we talked about this on the show before, the old sandbagging during qualifying. But this weekend, we had 2 guys that basically took no time. And one guy took no time because his pinion spun qualifying. So he really didn't get a lap in. The second guy basically just took no lap. And nothing was said at the race. We ran the races and stuff. And then the last couple of days behind the scenes, there's been we need to come up with some kind of penalty for people who take no time during qualifying. And that just opens the door to whether you sandbag or take no time, because you could take no time in a whole bunch of different ways. You could actually make it so your gear spins, like your spur gear, crown gear, and not get back on the track in a minute to get a lap in, or you might just kind of throw your car off every turn.
Sure, you could.
Wind up taking no time. So how do you prove a guy either set his car up to fail or he's throwing his car off on purpose to not take no time? And
I guess you could word it to say you have to make an attempt. Like, you can't just blatantly say, nope, I'm not doing it.
Well, okay.
Like you have to make an attempt. Now, if they rig the attempt, what are you going to do?
Oh, I know. And so then if they make an attempt and they run 7-second laps, now they're sandbagging. Okay, so but I think I think if you take no time, and again, it depends on who you are, I guess, or in your driving skill and stuff like that. I mean, if an A main driver takes no time or sandbags running that lower main, I don't see an advantage in that, because you take a big risk of getting torn up.
Right.
And then you got to deal with a lot of traffic, and
especially when it's combined laps.
Right, combined laps for sure. So, it's just one of those silly discussions that, like I said, you can't police it. One suggestion was we'll dock them 5 laps. Well, again, how do you prove the guy's sandbagging or the guy's doing whatever? You know what I mean? So, and to be honest with you, the one guy in question, he probably would have qualified in the C main anyway, even if he honestly took a lap and ran his best lap. So it wouldn't have changed anything at the end of the day. So, but that guy was still going to be 3 to 4 tenths faster than some of the other guys in that same main. But we usually have that problem in the A mains and the B mains. I mean, I posted up the lap times from the, well, we didn't have anything for the B main, but for the C main and the A main, and there's basically between the fastest lap of the 2 better drivers to the fastest lap of the 2 lowest drivers in that race, they were almost 4 tenths difference at times in the race. So A main was the same. A main was the same way. So you got that problem in all throughout the field, kind of.
Right.
So yep. So
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I never saw the point in doing it. I never felt like I needed to do it. So
I can't ever remember we talked about it, but I sandbagged so I wouldn't have to start on red lane. I wound up making the B main instead of the A main, and still had to start on red lane. So that didn't work well.
So the great Bob Hughes R4 controversy. Controversy.
Well.
All right. So the backstory for this, for some people who probably weren't at the race, was, in retro racing, concours is like a big part of it. There's a lot of really good body painters. A lot of people buy nice bodies, and a lot of people paint really nice bodies. And a lot of people want to win the concours award for having the best looking car. So they voted, the R4's, biggest retro race of the year, obviously. And one of the guys who won, he used numbers. I mean, I consider it a number, okay? But it's a circle with a skull and a crossbones through it, and it replicates Scott Bloomquist's number. Now, I consider that to be a number with a design in the middle. Somebody bought some really nice buys from Bob Hughes and finished second in the concours voting, and they thought that they should have won because the other guy didn't really have real numbers.
Right.
So, I consider the winner to have real numbers. How do you see it?
Well, okay. So first thing I want to say about Scott Bloomquist's number, I believe, doesn't he have a little tiny 18 somewhere on the car? Like,
I don't know.
Okay. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's an 18 somewhere on his car. I don't know if it's within the zero or if it's outside the zero.
Well, let's just say he doesn't. I mean, anyway,
I know.
like basically, when I in designs,
right? When I look at what was used, I see a zero.
Sure.
Okay. Just like the full size car racetrack scorers they see the zero, So, okay. First, I think we got to give more of the story because not only for one, there's really no concourse rules. Okay, and that concourse is done by racer vote. The racers in the class vote, so it's kind of like.
Well, and to be clear, I think Bob Hughes's complaint was that car shouldn't even have been able to enter the race because it wasn't legal.
Because it didn't have numbers. Right. So, but before you go to concourse, you go through tech. So if the guys at tech basically said, okay, that is a number to them, okay, it passed tech. So that's what is part of the judging deal. I mean, the car had numbers on it.
And Earl's been using those numbers for like years.
I don't know about years. I mean, I know in the last
year or two. He's been doing that for a long time.
Right. I know in the last year or two.
Never had a problem with it.
Right. So again, as far as I'm concerned, I mean, the car passed tech. The tech directors there at the race considered those numbers. Now, some people would say, well, that's a zero or not a zero, a circle, or it's a big letter O. I mean, I've seen the zero on tons of real size race cars over the years, and they all vary in shapes and sizes.
Right.
So, I mean, but when I look at that, I say, well, that's zero. So, but again, there's no rules that the concourse judging has to be by. They put all the cars out there, and everyone has a number, and you go up and you write down what you think is number 1, number 2, and number 3. If I remember correctly, is how they do that judging at the R4 race. So, it's really not. Then people will say, well, did you look at the bottom of the cars? And, I mean, I guess there should probably.
Well, I'd take the bottom of the cars out of the equation. I guess, I mean, like, would you have passed that car as having 3 numbers?
Yeah, because I've passed that car at Tech before with those on.
Okay. Yeah, I would have too.
Right. And they're decals,
Sure, they're paint mask, yeah.
Yeah. And, it's like the rules I thought used to say no Sharpie numbers, but the rules I found didn't say that. It just said you have 3 numbers on the cars. But I know that cars have come to Tech with Sharpie numbers and got bounced, and you had to either paint the numbers on or you have to use a decal or whatever. So, or vinyl or whatever. So, and then, okay, so even if Earl had a little different number on his car, let's say a number 1's on there, he still wins, what would be the complaint? I mean, again, the racers in the room voted for it. And is that really, if you're really into concourse, if you are a concourse painter, would you rather not be judged by a panel of 2 or 3 people versus, 50 people?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know on that. I'd have to think about that one.
I mean, it's like, if I'm hosting a race and we're having concourse, I tell whoever I choose to be the judge or judges, pay attention.
Yeah, but if you just pick like 2 or 3 people, I mean, like.
Well, you can't really.
How do you pick those 2 or 3 people? Like.
Well, I always try and pick people that don't have a car in the race, like 3 non-racers or not in that class.
See, like, I mean, I've done it before where, like, I've picked somebody's wife or somebody's friend or something that was not racing, have them pick the concourse. And I'm gonna be honest with you, most of the time they picked the most ugliest fucking body.
Well,
And I'm like, I was like, I don't know, that guy should have won, but whatever, they picked him, you know.
Well, I remember one time I had to use nothing against women. Some woman was there, and I said, "Hey, could you judge these cars? We're looking for cars that have nice paint, nice detail, the interior's done nicely, da 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 da." So she picked this pretty beat up, ugly car, and everyone was like, you know, like, and I'm like, "Okay, why'd you pick that car?" And she's like, "I just like the color." So
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I've had that happen. Yeah,
you know, she liked the color, so that's why she picked it. It's like, no, 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 no. So yeah,
so I mean, I guess in that sense, I think I'd rather have everybody vote. I feel like that's probably a more fair way of doing it than picking 2 or 3 people.
because years ago I used to like do the whole concourse thing. I mean, a long, long time ago. But man, there's just a lot of butt hurt at the end of the day when you put all this time.
It's a lot more work to do too.
And I can understand, like I can understand Bob's frustration a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Because he doesn't agree with what beat his work. Okay, and he put a lot of time or whatever into what he sold Clyde, and it didn't win, and it can be frustrating at times. And I understand, and that's kind of why I quit doing comedy.
Yeah, and I mean, in the bodies that Bob painted were beautiful bodies. They were really nice American flag bodies with chrome and everything. They were real nice.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
because you paint the best body doesn't mean you're going to win concourse.
Well, just because you think in your mind you've painted the best body, you're going to win concourse.
Yeah.
So, you know,
I mean, the best body doesn't always win, in my opinion. Anytime I've ever been at a concourse, but it's part of it, you know.
Oh,
it's not up to me.
I've seen a lot of beautiful cars lose concourse because they didn't have a nice driver in them. But I mean, in this case, you know, the drivers were really nice too. So, I mean, they were good presentations. So, and obviously, the majority of people felt those were the top 2 cars. I think in all 3 classes, or no, 2 of the 3 classes.
F1 maybe, or
F1
something.
was F1 was won by somebody other than Earl or Bob. So
maybe it was Steve Kep. I think maybe
maybe a car Steve Kep painted.
Yeah, which is maybe his Ricky Jr.'s car. Or
it could have been.
I don't know. I forget.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's always that's always a touchy subject.
Yeah.
And then, you know, someone posted those didn't even look like real cars to begin with. But again, that's somebody else's opinion. So, you know, and I think it's, you know, Gurr down in Florida. Do they still have a most realistic concourse winner and then a concourse winner?
I don't remember.
Okay, they used to. I don't know if they still do or not, but you know, for the guys that want to paint the stuff that look like a real car or what was raced in. So, but at the R4, there's just concourse. There's no split.
I remember after the first year I came to the R4 with like my pink and white spray bomb body. I mean, they were just like, it was like an uproar.
It was frowned upon.
She should not be allowed to enter the race because it was not painted properly.
Well, I think it would have been okay. So the first year, I'm trying to think what year we went to the Ferrari body. Second year or third year? Because I remember going to the warm-up race the month before, and it might have been the first time we ran a Ferrari body, or it was really early.
Ferrari 612.
612, yeah, and my body was all white, and I set all kinds of track records that day or something, and that was the talk of the town for a week, was that one color white Ferrari body and how, you know, I don't know.
Ugly it was.
It wasn't about being ugly. It was just about, you know, it doesn't look like a real thing, or, you know, but, you know, I could have painted it solid red and it would have been just like the real car. It would have been a one-color paint job, but the complaint was more just about the one-color paint job thing, you know. But yeah, it was talk. So while we're on the R4, another subject that came up was the senior division.
Oh, you're right.
So, what's your take on senior division or having a separate race for the seniors that don't want to compete against the young lions, but yet they race against the young lions every month at the monthly races?
Well, yeah. I mean, okay, so I play golf, and in golf, the younger guys play on the PGA Tour, and then they have like the senior tour, which they call like the Champions Tour, where once you get older, all the old guys go play with just the old guys,
Right.
and that works out really good for golf. But for racing, yeah, I mean, I've never seen that really done in racing because I don't know. I mean,
Okay, because you thought
I'm a young guy, and all these old guys are fixing to hate me. But I think you just need to saddle up and fucking go for the ride.
well,
Take out.
okay, so because you follow golf,
Yeah.
I think in golf the senior thing is more of an honors thing than an actual competition because you're okay. If who's a senior player on the PGA right now? I mean, like
I mean, like.
I was gonna say Arnold Palmer, but he's way
Yeah, I don't know, Louis Trevino or
Okay.
somebody, or
So-
John
so-
Daly or somebody like that.
Okay,
yeah.
so but those guys could still play with the young guys if they wanted to.
Sure, and every
Okay.
now and then they do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when they're having now when they have a PGA Tour event at a golf course, do they have a seniors event the same weekend?
No, they have their whole separate schedule.
Because my question was going to be, how many, if they do it the same weekend, how many times do the seniors outscore the young guys? Like, I don't play golf, and I understand as you get old, you get some physical limitations, and you might lose a little bit of your swing. But I don't think being old and playing golf is a huge disadvantage.
I mean, for some people, yeah, some people no. I mean, it's
Right.
just like slot cars. I mean,
And I was just say the same thing about
it's like look at you, okay? I'm not trying to call you old,
No, I know.
but if you take you, I mean, your skills, obviously, your reactions and your skill is phenomenal. But you could take somebody else your age,
Right,
and they could be like severely diminishing.
right.
Where you're
No, I
still
understand
on
that.
top,
Right,
You know?
right. I
So
understand that.
it's hard to say. It's hard to base it off age.
Right,
You can't put a number on it, right?
right.
But if you go win a senior race of the R4, did you really win the R4?
No, because the R4 is always about winning
Right.
the big show.
I mean,
But-
to me, that's like a feel-good thing. It's like a feel-good class.
Well, and I think, I mean, I don't have a problem if they, and I think probably what should be done is they race it like they do. Everyone's in the same thing. And then you could get a separate award or awards for the
Right.
overall senior finisher or senior finishers.
Sure. Separate the results at the end or something.
Yeah, right.
The,
Right.
senior.
But then they're going to say, well, I didn't move up to the A main. He did, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Like,
And the other thing is, I mean, there's like, let's be honest, there's more seniors. There's more people over 50 racing than there is under 50 at the R4. Sure.
yeah, but I think the cutoff was 60 or something when they did it.
Okay. So let's say there's like 30 people under 60 and like 20 people over 60 or 25. I mean, I'd rather race against 55 guys than race against 30.
Right.
It's more fun.
Well, and like last year, I think it was, they had a total of 59 Can-Ams, and I think 17 ran senior and
Right.
41 ran the Can-Am race. So, if you were the winner of last year's R4, not taking anything away from anybody, but you only really beat 41 guys. I mean,
Right.
it's less guys that you have to beat at the end of the day. But
And I mean, and if you want to compare it to racing too, like let's say NASCAR, right?
yeah,
I mean, 36 weeks out of the year. I mean, guys like David Reagan and
right,
all these back markers, right?
right.
I mean, Michael McDowell or whoever. I mean, the Starting Park guys. I mean, they're not going to win. They know that, but
Right.
they go out there and they start,
Sure.
and they wait for those super speedways, right? Gerding King tracks where they got their shot.
Right.
You know what I mean? I mean, yeah, you're maybe not going to win on a hill climb against like Willie or Cap or Greg Fox or those guys, but I mean, but you go out there on a track that's a little easier to drive, like a Girding. I mean, those guys always are like get right up there in the mix because it's like a big equalizer, you know?
Right. Right.
But
Kind of hard. It's just, when you think about it, like Kevin Harvick he's the senior in NASCAR. Him and Jimmy Johnson, and
right,
you know what I mean. Like, but those guys are kind of like getting in. I mean, other than Jimmy, I mean, Harvick's kind of right now getting in the prime of his career. So,
right,
you know what I mean?
right. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean, I don't really think they should. I don't think there's enough people to separate it. It's just what I think. I mean, if there's like 100 people in the class, yeah, sure.
Yeah, if you got 50 and 50 or 40.
But when there's like 20 or 30, I don't.
Right. And then there's some seniors that could run seniors that they didn't run seniors. They ran just regular Can-Am. Yeah. So, yeah, like I said, I just think they should figure out some kind of award for the top finisher or the top three or whatever and recognize them.
Sure, yeah, but without separating the class.
Right.
Yeah. No, I know. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So,
I mean, yeah, I would have no problem with that at all.
I mean, like years ago, USRA started the senior pro class or the geezer class or and it always had a limited number of people that ran in it. And,
right.
I mean, I don't know. It depends how you look at it. I mean, those guys got to run an extra kind of warm-up race, the seniors. They would run that race, and they would then go race Group 7. So they kind of got an extra race in, which could be advantageous. But it could be a detriment, too, if you run out of equipment,
It didn't Bud win last year when they won the senior race?
Yeah.
I mean, look where he qualifies and stacks up. I mean,
he's in the thick of it.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yep.
So,
I mean, there's plenty of people that race slot cars that go to the track and they know they're probably not going to win.
Right.
But
or maybe they should just have a separate race. I don't know. It's kind of you can't make everybody that's over 60 running the thing.
Can't make everybody a winner.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I get where they're coming from. I mean, I get it, but there's really like.
But okay, so So you
do that, and then Bud wins every week. Okay, so then what?
Well, that's like Gil Paddocky. He kind of pushes for it. No problem.
Right.
But then, I mean, he won the Coupe race, the
K race, right, against young people.
Yeah, I mean, he's a 60-some-year-old guy, and he beat all the kids. So, I mean,
right.
They should have made him do a Carl Edwards stand on the front straight.
And I was surprised he didn't try to run the pro race.
Right.
Well,
I think he did run pro race.
Did he? I thought he did.
Yeah, I think he joined in.
Okay.
But
okay.
I thought I seen his name in there. But
yeah, I mean, I wish that slot cars was big enough to justify amateurs and pros or seniors. I wish it was big enough to do all that, but it's just not really.
Right. Yep. So.
And I think that's why one of the reasons why Girding King tracks are so popular now is because they really are such an equalizer for people of all different skill sets to come in and be able to compete, really.
Yeah.
I
mean, okay, like now that you said that, I mean, Rich T, I mean, I don't know Rich's exact age, but I'm going to say he's around 60. I mean, he was competitive this weekend. Let's put it this way. He may have been 10 to 9 laps behind the top three guys at the end of the day, but it wasn't his physical abilities that had him back there. And I'm not knocking Rich or what Rich is doing, but Rich is a very busy guy, and if Rich was as dedicated to his equipment as some of the rest of the guys are, he'd be right up there. You know what I mean? Like, Rich can run with the top three guys this last weekend. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I mean, like, I know when I go to an oval or a hill climb or a paper clip or a grandstand or anything like that, I know that, like, when I walk in the door, I'm like, okay, there's like 3 to 5 guys here that I'm gonna have to race for the win. But
Right.
when I walk into like a Girding King track, I'm like, all right, there's gonna be like 15 dudes here I'm gonna have to beat.
Right.
You know, because it just really widens the horizon of the amount of people that are going to run good.
Well,
Yeah.
as it was once said, the king track is the common denominator. So, it is, as far as it's a pretty easy rhythm and thing to drive. You know what I mean?
Sure, right.
But at that saying that, you know, with the newer king tracks, they're so much nicer, and there's less driving in them than there was the king tracks of 10 years ago and 20 years ago, and you know,
absolutely, yeah.
It gets easy. I mean, that's another topic.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we have drivers kings now.
Well, that's another topic, but I mean, you know, people talk about slot car races not that big and stuff, and it's like the tracks are so good now, the newer kings. It's so easy to drive. You should have tons of people racing. You know what I'm saying? Like, but other things come into play and factor in. But yeah, it's so much easier today to run a king track than it was 30 years ago.
Like before I went to Mark's Model World for the first time, all I heard was everyone said, "It's a driver's king. It's a driver's king."
Yeah, just kind of one turn is.
And I got up there and I'm driving on it. I'm like. These people never raced on a driver's king, obviously.
Well,
because Mark's Model World is not a driver's king track. It's not a knock by any means. I love that track.
Right.
But compared to like 10 years ago, like you said, those were driver's king tracks. You know what I mean?
Well, and Mark's king track that he had before that he had built, that was a driver's king track. I mean,
right.
You know what I'm saying? But
right.
Because his track is slower, people think it's a driver's track. And like I said, it just depends on what type of car. Flexi cars, not really. You know what I mean? But retro, I mean, if you compare it to, say, Tri-State in the southern part of the state, you know, to me, the two differences are the deadman. You know, Mark's deadman, you got to kind of drive a little bit, where Tri-State, you just kind of go in there and go, bang.
I think Mark's is easier to drive than Tri-State, in my opinion, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, other than the Deadman, they're both the same to drive, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Mark's Deadman, I'm talking about the retro cars. Flexi cars is not such a big deal.
Yeah.
So, but like I said, it depends on what but again, you walk into a raceway, you're new raceway, they have a new Girding King track, you buy a Flexi car, it goes around so good compared to what 10 years ago, 20 years ago.
Right.
So, yeah. So, other than that, what else you got?
Nothing really.
Nothing really?
No, just getting ready for the big Easter weekend.
Got your, gonna go hunt your eggs?
Huh?
You go hunt your eggs?
Yeah, I'm looking for the ones with the $100 bills in them. So
it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird, like Easter being this early, because I think it's early this year.
Is it?
Well, I don't know. I always thought the last week of.
Thought it was always the first weekend.
Because it always changes.
Yeah, I thought it was always the first week in April.
No. I think it has a 3 or 4 week swing sometimes.
I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I'm bad on dates, so.
I know. Well, it's just one of those things that moves around, but.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's never the same.
Whatever. It's this weekend anyway. Whatever.
It's not the same weekend every year, and it's not the same date.
And was it 2 weekends? We got Mark's. Speaking
Mark's
of Mark.
Model World.
Yeah, that's coming up pretty quick.
RS. Yep.
Yeah.
So. And there's some more other races that weekend. But we'll talk more about that next weekend.
Yeah, I think they're having a warm-up race, too.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, let's see if I got the date.
Well, it's going to have to be next weekend.
Somebody shot me a link to it. Ralph Middaugh let me know that on 4/7/18 they're having a warm-up race for the FNRS at Mark's Model World.
Okay.
So that's 4/7 next weekend,
Let's warm up. So, okay. So we'll announce that next weekend again.
Yeah.
week.
Right.
Weekend.
Next week. Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's about all I got, though.
All right. Well, you get hippity hopping down the bunny trail.
All right. Yeah, we got
And
day full work first.
just a real couple of quick shout outs. Ross Scharf was in kind of a nasty, I guess, auto accident.
Yeah.
And I guess he's recovered from, I mean, you know what I'm saying, like, he was pretty torn up as far as.
Yeah, it looked like he had some stitches down his face and everything. I don't know all the
I mean,
details.
he's up and moving, let's put it that way.
We wish him a speedy recovery.
Yeah. And Uncle Bob is in the hospital. So I don't know if it's really bad or not, but anyway.
But yeah.
Get well, Uncle Bob.
Nonetheless, it's not good to be in the hospital.
Right. So.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
Okay, doke. Well, what's the word of the show?
Oh, yeah, I didn't even think about that. Oh, let's do concourse because that was such a subject. And concourse.
For the record, that's spelled CONCOURS. There's no E at the end.
It's not concourse. It's concourse.
Correct.
It's a French word.
A concourse is, where your airplane parks.
Yes.
So at the airport. So. Correct. All right. Well, that's all I got.
All right. Everybody have a good Easter. Yep. Safe weekend if you're traveling.
Yep.
And we'll see you next week.
All right. See you guys.
Bye.